Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
And welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, a very impressive comeback win for the New York Mets to kick off this final road trip before the end of the first half. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I thought the Mets were left for dead in this game. They fall behind 6-2, and in the 8th inning, a comeback begins thanks to a 2-run home run from Francisco Lindor. 2 batters later, it's Pete Alonso with a 2-run shot to tie this game at 6, and then the Mets doing just enough. They scratched just 1 run across in the top of the 10th, but Huascar Brazaban locking it down, retiring the Orioles 1-2-3 as the Mets kick off this road trip in grand fashion with a 7-6 extra innings win, their biggest comeback victory of 2025, and I am juiced about it, guys. What is up? I am Tony Metro. If you guys are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. I do daily Mets content, post-game recap after every single Mets game. Also, give this video a like. Really appreciate it. Goes a long way toward helping out the channel. And you can follow me on all my other platforms, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. Links to those are in the description below. If you want to call in, be a part of the show live here right now, you can do that. Go to the Discord link in the description of this video, and I will bring you in when we're ready to take phone calls. But man, what a win for the Mets tonight. Like I said, I thought they were left for dead. They fall behind 1-0 in this game. Clay Holmes absolutely blows up in the 6th inning immediately after the Mets were able to take their first lead, and then they're able to come back in the 8th inning thanks to, as Keith Hernandez affectionately dubbed them, the Big Four, that being Brandon Nimmo, who gets that 8th inning going. Huge at bat there, just fighting away pitches despite having 2 strikes in the count, ends up getting a leadoff single. Then it's Francisco Lindor going dead central for the 2-run shot, his 18th homer of the season. Juan Soto pokes one in the right center field, and Pete Alonso with a 2-run homer of his own to tie this game at 6 apiece. You get a scoreless 9th inning from Edwin Diaz. The Mets with the bases loaded after Juan Soto immediately first pitch swinging in the top of the 10th brings home Francisco Lindor with the go-ahead run, and we're thinking, all right, we need a big inning because who's going to close out this game? I mean, you could go to Edwin Diaz. He only threw 10 pitches in the 9th inning. Or do they go to Ryan Stanek? And then we see Huascar Brazaban on the mound. And we are all freaking out because Luis Torrens ends up getting rung up. Ronnie Mauricio hits a hard line drive right at Ryan O'Hearn at first base, and we're thinking, oh boy, we know if you're the away team in the new ghost runner extra inning era of baseball, you need at least 2 runs minimum, and that's if you have your closer on the mound or at least a decent bullpen, which lately it doesn't look like the Mets have had. And so we're just white knuckling this 10th inning, but honestly, Huascar Brazaban getting a strikeout, a pop out, and then a ground out to second base. Put it in the books. The New York Mets improved to 53-39. They have now won 5 of their last 8 games, and it looks to me, guys, and I said it after Saturday and I said it after Sunday, despite their loss in the series finale to the Yankees, that the Mets are out of the woods. Those dark times that we were experiencing over that whole 3-week stretch. We saw a lot of fight on Sunday despite being short-staffed, literally with what they threw out there from that bullpen game. And for them to come back and mount this rally in the 8th inning with their backs against the wall and take home the dub, I am pumped about it, guys. Sound off in the chat. And speaking of which, let's go to it. Red Bear Fox, this was a pleasant surprise tonight. Of course, the top of the order carrying the team. Yeah, well, we got a Mauricio home run. We got a little bit of bat from him as well. We'll definitely jump into more detail about it, but not a complete goose egg from the bottom of the order. Brett Beatty also had a base hit in this one. Whew, tough day for Mark Vientos, and he doesn't even play the full game, but still, the bad times continue for Mark Vientos. But top of the order, like you said, Red Bear Fox carrying this team. Absol, best comeback of the year. Thanks Alonso, Lindor, and Brazaban for their contribution. Don't forget Brandon Nimmo setting up that 8th inning for for Lindor to hit the home run and to keep passing the baton along to Soto, who had the go-ahead hit in the 10th as well. So lots of flowers to give out to many players in this team this week or tonight. James Lee, yes, well said. I couldn't have said it any better myself. James Lee, awesome win for the Mets. So let's go through it. Clay Holmes was on the mound, and honestly, things were looking okay for them. You know, first inning, second inning, putting up zeros for the team, and then the Mets just could not touch this dude for the Orioles. I think his name was Brandon Young, but he was looking like Cy Young against the Mets. I mean, they were hitless through the first 2.5 innings. Brett Beatty gets a base hit in the third, but really the Mets had nothing to show for against Brandon Young. And then it gets even worse. He throws an immaculate inning. I mean, I didn't realize how few immaculate innings have been thrown in Major League Baseball's history, but it was something like 190. I think that was like half the amount of no-hitters that have been thrown. So an immaculate inning is a lot more rare than I actually realized. And the Mets are looking like the Mets did for the first or the last 3 weeks before that Brewers and Yankees series. Cy Brandon Young on the mound, just mowing us down. The Orioles able to get a run in the third inning off of Clay Holmes. That was kind of frustrating. Really wasn't Holmes's fault, but it comes all with 2 outs and 2 strikes. It's like a 3-hopper up the middle. Cedric Mullins is the run that scored. It was on a walk that honestly was a questionable ball 4 call. Could have been a strike, and it was in a 3-2 count. So that was frustrating to see, but really no fault of Clay Holmes. But the Mets in the 6th erupt, and thanks to Ronnie Mauricio clubbing his 4th homer of the season out to right field. Very next batter, Brett Beatty able to get a double, and then it was Brandon Nimmo with a double of his own to bring him home and give the Mets the lead. Now, that's the good of the 6th inning. 3 consecutive extra base hits. You get it from the bottom of the order. The 2 baby Mets and Ronnie Mauricio and Brett Beatty, who started in this game. The bad now, though, the Mets end up stranding Brandon Nimmo at second with no outs. So they've got a 2-1 lead now. You're like, all right, we just broke through on this guy. They end up pulling him. The Orioles do. Francisco Lindor pops up. Juan Soto hits one into the gap on a line. Unfortunately, it gets caught. They intentionally walk Pete Alonso, and that is when the Mets decided to pinch hit Mark Vientos for Jesse Winker. And unfortunately, Mark Vientos just can't hit his way out of a paper bag right now. I mean, it is just startling to see Mark Vientos and the fall that he has had from last season. Let me go to the chat really quick. Fingrin Diaz, Vientos getting pinch hit for with Jankowski. How the swaggy have fallen. Perfectly on topic right here. Just what I was talking about. CP True Mets Talk. Let's go Mets. Yes, sir. Let's go Mets. Guys, check out CP's True Mets Talk channel and content. He's got really good stuff. And D-Rails, my man. I'm doing well, brother. How are you doing, D-Rails? Always a staple here in the chats, just like James Lee, just like Red Bear Fox. Appreciate you guys always tuning in, and what a happy recap that we can do here tonight, right? But going back to that 6th inning, the Mets had just taken a 2-1 lead, and you're feeling like, damn, we got to get another run here. Brandon Nimmo on second, no outs, but like I said, Lindor pop up. Soto lines one into the gap in right center. It gets flagged down. They intentionally walk Pete, and they bring up Mark Vientos to pinch hit for Jesse Winker, and Mark Vientos, man, just not getting the job done. Obviously, as we all know, that goes without saying. The batting average is at 210 and the OPS down to 613 for Mark Vientos. So that was a little frustrating, and it only gets exasperated because literally the next half inning, Clay Holmes spits the bit. He has Jackson Holiday in an 0-2 count, tries to throw him a slider, and it hits him on the foot, and everything unravels from there. 4 consecutive base hits, including a double, as the Orioles put up a 4 spot to immediately answer back. It seems like the Mets haven't been able to have a shutdown inning in, I don't know, a month. I mean, it's been so incredibly painful when the Mets score runs and the very next half inning give them right back. And then sometimes even more. The Orioles climb out to a 5-2 lead. And then in the 7th inning, we got to see the debut of the newest Mets pickup in I think it's Alex Castillo, right? Yeah, Alex Carrillo. And Carrillo ends up getting 4 outs in this game, I believe. Yeah, 4 outs, but not before serving up an absolute bomb to Jackson Holiday in the 7th inning. That makes it 6-2. And I'm going to be honest, guys, at that point in my head, I'm thinking, this game's over. I am going to be annoyed. The Mets came out flat to open this road stand that I think is crucial to how they go into the All-Star break. Because if you've been watching my channel, what I've been saying for the last 2 days since the end of that Yankees series is that I think the Mets could really wash away all of the bad, ugly horribleness of that 3-week stretch by going and winning the first or these last 2 series with Baltimore and with Kansas City. And if they had came out tonight and just laid down and watched as Clay Holmes just completely blew up, that would have been very disappointing. But that's not the case. They make this amazing comeback, the biggest comeback of the season for the Mets in 2025, because in that 8th inning, you got Nimmo with the leadoff single, just absolutely battling in that at-bat. Francisco Lindor, who to that point had 2 really ugly at-bats entering that one, he launches the 2-run bomb. Soto gets a base hit, and then Pete hits his own 2-run homer to right center field, number 255, and he is on his way to passing Straw for the all-time record, just 9-8 away now at this point. So really, really pumped about seeing that soon. And then the Mets in the 10th, able to scratch one across. You would have liked more, bases loaded. That pitcher made a perfect 3-2 pitch on the corner. He just dotted it to Luis Torrens, who the pitch prior was about 5 feet from having a bases clearing double down the right field line. Ronnie Mauricio lines out, and we're not feeling all too good about Brazoban closing it out, but he surprises us all. He gets it done, and it is a series road trip opening W for the New York Mets. They improved to 14 games over 500. They are now in a tie with the Phillies for first place in the National League, and they could, or no, I'm sorry, they are now a half a game behind the Phillies in the National League East. They could be in a tie with them depending on how the Phillies do here tonight. They are playing on the West Coast against San Francisco. So guys, how you feeling in the chat? Let me know. Speaking of it, let me go to the chat real quick. Red Bear Fox, Mauricio, so frustrating. Raw talent, but the baseball IQ is pathetic. Dude tried to sell a 3-0 pitch as ball 4 when it wasn't even questionable, then gets the auto strike 2. I said it in the chat to my Discord. That is a classic young player. What we saw from Ronnie Mauricio, he's 1 for 5 with a homer today. He also ends up striking out twice. So he had the home run in the 6th inning. Then he strikes out on 3 pitches. The 2 pitches that he swung at, one was at his eyes. The 3rd pitch was in the dirt. Then he makes a tremendous double play at 3rd base to end the 8th inning with Reed Garrett on the mound. Then in the top of the 9th, he's leading off. What does he do? Just like you said, Red Bear Fox tries to make it look like it's ball 4, clearly right down the middle. He gets called on the next one for the automatic strike for not initiating the pitcher, and then ends up swinging at a ball for strike 3. So that was the most classic young player example of a game you'd ever see, and it comes from Ronnie Mauricio. Overall, I've been a little more pleased, a little more excited with what I have seen from Ronnie, but this is just what it's going to come with. I will give him credit outside of just hitting the home run. He did look very solid defensively at 3rd base as well. So that was a good sign. D-Rail says, yo, Mauricio plays a mean 3rd, but he pissed me off in the 9th. There you go, man. Exactly what I was just saying, D-Rails. Played a really solid 3rd base defensively tonight, but had some really boneheaded at-bats in this game as well. We've obviously seen some of the base running miscues that he has had over the last week or so. He's a young player. He probably could use some more time in AAA. I truly believe that the Mets are kind of showcasing him right now for a potential trade. Unfortunately, Mark Vientos is not showcasing any type of interest from other teams with the way he has been going. But I do believe that is what the Mets are doing with Ronnie Mauricio right now. And he has shown he can play at the big league level. He may just not be fully matured and ready to do it at an every single play type of consistency yet. But still, I think a really solid game from Mauricio. But there will be growing pains with him for sure, just like there are with all young players. They're doing Vientos dirty, says D-Rails. I mean, at this point, man, I don't know what they can do with him at this point, because they can't just keep letting him kill the team. They can't send him down to AAA. So the Mets are out of options, and literally Mark Vientos is out of options. They can't put him down in AAA to Syracuse to try to work on things. They can't keep putting him up in big spots in the order and have him keep burning them. So unfortunately, yeah, Vientos has been getting pinch hit for the last couple of opportunities, and it seems like the guys that have been pinch hitting for him have been getting the job done. You see Travis Jankowski pinch hitting for him to lay down a bunt and move the runners to second and third, which who would ever think that last year in October we would be pinch hitting Mark Vientos with Travis Jankowski? I mean, it is just crazy what has happened to this guy, and really, really frustrating. I wish that this wasn't reality, but it is what it is. And if the Mets want to win games, they need to prioritize what they can do with the what they can get from the lineup. All right, let me see if I can make sure. No, this is not what I want. I guess we can't share our screen right now. Let me double check on this here. Hold on now. Display? No. All right, well, we're going back to here for right now. You can keep watching these highlights until I can figure that out. But let me go back to the chat. Let's see. Red Bear Fox, quick update. Phil's down 1-0 in the top of the fifth, and Braves getting rocked by Oakland right now, 9-0 after 2 innings. Guys, the Braves are close to being in last place. They are 11 games under 500 at 39-50, and they are only about 2.5 games ahead of the Washington Nationals, who just fired Davey Martinez and their general manager, Mike Rizzo. The Braves are falling on bad times, and I am here for it. I love it. It is the best. If they want to treat us like it's their World Series, then fine, because they are getting slapped around by the rest of the league, and I am enjoying checking those box scores every single time. But good news to see the Phillies trailing 1-0 in the 5th inning against San Francisco. Like I said, Phillies lose tonight. Mets will be in a virtual tie with them for first place. I don't know if they've played more games or not. It always goes by winning percentage, so they would technically hold the tiebreaker or whatever, but we've obviously beat them more than they have in head-to-head matchups. So getting too far ahead of ourselves, but would be really nice to get into this tie for first place, play out the rest of this first half, these final 5 games, and pick things up in the second half. So D-Rails, yay, go Braves. Yeah, or the Barbs, as I like to call them. Ray says, Pete is hot, Nimmo is locked in, Lindor is doing what he does, and just flying under the radar is Juan Soto. Juan Soto with 2 more hits tonight. He has the game-winning hit, first pitch swinging in the top of the 10th inning to drive in the run. That was really great to see. So he also laced that ball into right center field in the 6th inning as well, when the Mets got their first 2 runs of the ball game. So Juan Soto continues to just kind of fly under the radar and quietly just be a 900 plus OPS bat, and yet still he's not in the All-Star game. Explain that one to me. I'd like to understand that one, because I personally don't. Let's see. James Lee Vientos is like Stanton. He's gonna wreck in the postseason for us, dude. I mean, if we are getting Giancarlo Stanton in the postseason out of Mark Vientos, then sign me up. I am here for that. But I mean, Stanton never plays in the regular season, but he's going to still pop 20, 25 home runs or something like that. We're not even getting that from Mark Vientos at this point, but I'll sign for it 100%. Fringren Diaz says Braves just need to play the Mets 50 more times to get back into first place. I know, right? It's crazy. I don't understand. The Braves made us look like a JV squad, and like they were the, I don't know, like murderers row. And when they play anybody but the orange and blue, they just crap all over themselves, vomit all down their shirt. I don't understand why the Braves can play the way they do against the Mets, then get swept by this Orioles team, who are pretty good. I'm not discrediting Baltimore at all, but they've lost to Miami. They lost a series to the Angels. Like, I don't get it, but the Braves love feasting on the Mets for some reason. Tony, label your garbage pail Braves, LOL. I love it, Ray. Just get a big Braves logo and put it on my trash can, right? I mean, I think that's reserved for the Astros technically, but I mean, I'm game for it. Like, why not? But guys, let me know in the chat, how are you guys feeling? You pumped about this win? Are you feeling like the Mets are going to take away these last 2 series remaining before the end of the first half? That's what I wanted them to do. Get 2 out of 3 from each of these teams. Honestly, it doesn't even have to actually be that way. I want them to win 4 out of the final 6. If that means a sweep of one of these teams and then they lose 2 out of 3 to the other, so be it. But win 4 of these final 6 games. That gives them 8 wins in the final 12 before the end of the first half. It gives them 4 consecutive series victories. I mean, I guess in that situation it wouldn't, but it would if they go 2 out of 3 in Baltimore and 2 out of 3 in Kansas City. That would give them 4 consecutive series victories against playoff teams from 2024. So things are looking good, guys. I mean, obviously still got a lot of ground to, make up for that terrible streak that they were on to get back to that 2022 games over 500 kind of area. But at this point, you just got to keep pace with the Phillies and make your move in the second half. And right now, the Mets are doing that despite that terrible time that they were going through. We're 1 game, technically now half a game behind, with the potential of going to bed tonight in a tie for first place. So I am super juiced about that. I don't think I'm going to be able to share my screen tonight, guys. I'm going to give it a shot here, but for whatever reason, we're having some issues. So for now, just enjoy the darkness over here. I'm sure you're sick of seeing those replays over and over, but keep going in the chat with each other while I try and figure this out really quick. For some reason, we lost that ability, but normally I'm able to do that. I wanted to share whatever Carlos Mendoza had to say in his post-game presser, but we're having some technical difficulties here on Tony Metro. I need one of those like little musical elevator music kind of things going right now, but I don't know what happened here. Could it be this? No, I don't think so. Oh boy, this could be a problem, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know. Maybe, possibly. Is this it? No, this is not it. Okay, hold on, guys. Give me a second here. We're working on things. I appreciate your guys. No, we don't want to do that at all. Nope, that's a terrible idea. Okay, hold on. I swear this has never happened before. That's what I tell my girlfriend all the time. No, this window projector could be. No. All right. Well, I would have loved to have been able to share my screen with you guys like I normally do, and we could go through the box score and go through potential trades and whatnot. But for whatever reason, we're having these difficulties and it's not cooperating. So unfortunately, you got to look at my ugly mug even more zoomed in than in that one. So I apologize, guys. But yeah, not having the best time here with our computer setup for whatever reason. But let me go to the chat really quick. Let's see. Red Bear Fox Soto is now hitting 269 with a 399 on base percentage. I mean, the craziness about Juan Soto in the first month and a half, 2 months of the season was just outrageous. Like everyone freaking out. I can't believe we signed this guy. I can't believe the Mets signed that guy for a 15-year contract and it's already blowing up in their face and yada yada. You knew that Juan Soto was going to hit like superstar Juan Soto. Very respectable batting average. I think his career batting average is something like 270, 273, so he's right in line with that. The on-base percentage right around 400. That's about where he is for the career. And the OPS up above 900 as well. We got Juan Soto, and we've got him for 14 more years after this one, and I am juiced about it, so let's go. Let's see. Lane says the Mets win. Yes, sir. Nice comeback win. Biggest comeback victory of the season for the Mets. And this is what I said on Sunday after the loss to the Yankees in the series finale. I said, look, was it disappointing we couldn't get the sweep? Yes, but we entered Sunday not having a puncher's chance to win that game. Our crap bullpen game of Uber drivers versus Max Fried. And despite falling down 5-0, the Mets mount a comeback. They make it 5-4. They very nearly completed, if not for Cody Bellinger's play in left field. And I said after that game, I'm not even mad. I am really happy with what I saw from this Mets team. This was fight I didn't see from the Mets in that 3-week stretch. And we got that Sunday, and we got it tonight when they were down 6-2 in the 8th inning. 2 2-run shots from our biggest leaders in Lindor and in Pete Alonso to tie this game. A 10-pitch was it 1-2-3 inning? I think it was a 1-2-3 inning from Edwin Diaz in the 9th. And then Huascar Brazoban, despite all of his struggles lately, able to close out the bottom of the 10th with a skinny 1-run lead going 1-2-3 against the heart of the order for Baltimore. This was another one of those all hands on deck big wins for the Mets. That tells me that they are out of the doldrums of that horrible stretch of baseball that they were in during that time. So I am really juiced about this W. Ray says, Tony, you can fix it. I can't, man. I tried and everything was getting messed up. I'll give it a shot again. Let me finish with the chat and see if I can get it fixed. But for whatever reason, I'm having problems sharing my screen with you guys. I don't know why. I'm going to try to work on it in the background. But when I'm doing that, then I'm not entertaining. So, you know, I want to try to have a little balance of it all. Lane says, who's pitching for the Mets on Wednesday night? That is a good question. So why don't we take a look? Tomorrow, actually, we'll start with that and see who is on the bump for the Metsies on Wednesday. Oh, tomorrow is Wednesday, isn't it? I always get these days mixed up. So David Peterson is on the mound for the Mets tomorrow, and he is taking on Tomoyaki Sugano. And then in the series finale, an afternoon game on Thursday. That's nice. A little getaway day for the Mets, heading to Kansas City after that. It is to be determined. So the Mets haven't announced the pitcher for Thursday series finale. Maybe the Mets are going to call up one of their young guys, Nolan McLean, or maybe Brandon Sproat. I kind of doubt that. I think they're probably leaning more toward another one of those makeshift bullpen games on Thursday, but we'll see how they decide to play it. I think it really does depend on what they do tomorrow. If the Mets win tomorrow's game, unfortunately, and I hate to say it, but I think they're going to kind of treat Thursday as a punt game, which kind of makes sense and also kind of doesn't. It makes sense because you don't want to rush up a kid from the minors if you don't really truly believe he's ready to pitch at the big league level. I personally think Nolan McLean or Brandon Sproat should get their shot at this point. Nevertheless, if the Mets don't feel that way, they go with the bullpen game, but we know that on Friday, Kodai Senga is set to return for his first start back from the injured list. How long can he go? I would say it's only realistic to expect, best case scenario, 5 innings out of him. And then the other big news that was dropped today, Sean Manaea is set to also start in the series first half finale on Sunday against the Royals. The plan right now is either for Manaea to start on Sunday or to piggyback off of Clay Holmes, who would get the start, or vice versa. So the Mets are going to need their bullpen over the weekend in Kansas City. So with no starting pitcher announced for Thursday against the Orioles, I could make the case that going with a bullpen game and potentially burning them all out ahead of going to Kansas City might not be the smartest way to go about things. And instead, maybe they do finally give one of these young starting pitching prospects a shot. But that's just how I'm thinking things are going to play out. Then again, the Mets are always making these transactions. It seems a new guy is signed and DFA'd every single day. I saw they signed another guy today who I didn't catch. We saw the debut of Alex Carrillo today. We saw Zach Pop was DFA'd today. So maybe they're going to just continue doing these flurry of transactions that they have been doing to try to keep the pitching staff's head above water. But let's see. Lane says, who's pitching for the Mets on Wednesday? Okay, so we got David Peterson. James Lee, imagine if we walked Judge that we could have swept the Yankees. Yeah, well, hindsight's 2020. I don't remember if there were 2 outs in that inning. It was the 5th, and I know Judge hit the 2-run homer to make it 5-0, but I can't remember if there were 2 outs or not. Mendoza didn't really give a great answer. He said, well, Giancarlo Stanton's on deck. I don't like that matchup either. It's like, okay, I'd rather face Giancarlo Stanton with 2 men on base than Aaron Judge with just a singular guy on base. That's just how I feel. But anyway, yeah, they could have swept the Yankees if they didn't throw a quadruple A squad of guys that were stocking shelves at Whole Foods last week. But, you know, happy to get 2 out of 3. James says, call up Brandon for Thursday. Brandon Sproat. Maybe. I mean, he has pitched much better at AAA recently than how he was performing in the beginning of the season. ERA is still above 5, but has definitely looked like he has rounded a corner there over his last 2 or 3 starts. So Sproat might be someone that they decide, but they did promote him very early last year. He ascended through 3 different levels of the minors in 2024. He struggled in AAA last year. He struggled at the beginning of this year. During spring training, when all the buzz was about Brandon Sproat, David Stern said, look, we like to challenge these guys and maybe put them in AAA or the next level of the minors before they're actually ready, because we want to see how they're going to make adjustments and adapt their pitching style. And it looks like maybe Sproat has done that, but I don't know that the front office has actually seen enough from him to say, yes, we're ready to give you a shot on a big league mound. Now, Nolan Nolan McLean, in my opinion, is a totally different situation. He has a 2.25 ERA, just struck out 10 guys the other day over 5 frames. If there was ever a time for the Mets to give one of these young starters a shot, and I personally think that day is on Thursday against the Orioles, Nolan McLean would be the first guy I give that opportunity to. But let's see. James says, and then our ghost is back for Friday. Yes, so we will have Kodai Senga back. And guys, it is official. Tony Metro is going to Kansas City. Sound off in the chat, baby. Let's go. Going to Kansas City Friday morning. As you guys know, I live in Lincoln, Nebraska right now, and I will be making the drive down. It's about a 3-hour ride, so we will be heading down Friday afternoon. We will get in for Friday's game. Kodai Senga on the mound, and then I will be attending Saturday's afternoon game as well. So that is going to be sick. Really excited about that. Really pumped to see lots of Mets fans out there. Not going to be fun to see that 2015 World Series banner hanging up at Kauffman Stadium, but I am super stoked to go to that game and hopefully can get a lot of fun content out of that I can post here for you guys. But Ray says, hate the punt mindset. I mean, I feel you on that, dude. You know, I don't like punting games. Unfortunately, the Mets are kind of in that type of precarious position right now. But I mean, it could all be alleviated if they made some call-ups with actual impressive prospects that could do something. I mean, look at Nate Dome, what he has been doing as a reliever in the minor leagues. Why has he not been someone they potentially call up? Why hasn't Brandon Sproat or Nolan McLean gotten opportunities as starting pitchers? So I don't like punting games either, but at this point, I think David Stearns is basically just trying to buy time until he can pounce and make that big trade that he's hoping that they can at the trade deadline, whatever that may be. But there obviously needs to be a couple to improve a few different areas of this team. Let's see. Oh my God, I'm so blind, guys. Lane says, do you call Brandon Sproat for Thursday for the Mets? Yeah, I think so. Like I said, I'd call Sproat. I'd probably go McLean, but if the Mets called up either of them, I would be really excited about that. I would be really excited to see a legitimate minor league prospect coming up and getting on the mound for the New York Mets. So I don't think that is what Stearns is going to do, but me personally, I'm doing it, man. Why not? Give him a shot. Worst comes to worst, you send the back down to AAA or whatever level they were at in the minor leagues, and they go back right after the All-Star break. So why not? Just give it a shot. Like, I'm all about it. Let's see. Tony McLean. Remember, I brought him up. You did. Ray was on top of this from the jump. Ray was 100% on Nolan McLean from the very beginning. I think I had heard of him and just kind of knew about some of his profile, but then I started looking into it more after you brought it up, Ray. So you were spot on about Nolan McLean. 100%, man. I appreciate that. Ray's on top of things. James says, nice, have a blast, in reference to me going to Citi Field, and you're 5 minutes from Citi Field? Dude, I'm so freaking jealous, dude. That is sick. I would be going to every single game. The following week, after this weekend, I am going to a handful of games in New York, so I'm really excited about that. The only 2 games I've been to this year at Citi Field were for the home opener against the Blue Jays. They won both of those games. So far, I am 4-0 while in person attending Mets games in 2025. So, I mean, I don't want to say I'm a good luck charm, but I'm just, if you guys want to chip in, get me season tickets. I'm all here for it, man. I'm relocate to New York, and I will go to every Mets home game if y'all want to chip in and get Tony Metro some season tickets. I'm just saying, man, you can't. I'm undefeated so far this year, and that's not normally the case. I will be honest, not typically the case when I attend games in person for the Mets, but so far so good this year. Hopefully the good times will keep rolling against the Royals. My away record, so I went to the 2 games, the final 2 games in Colorado, and they won both of those games. So 2-0 on the road this year and 2-0 at Citi Field. And now we will have 2 more in Kansas City this weekend. So let's see if I can go a perfect 6-0 in the first half while attending Mets games in person. You know what, man? Crowds travel, defense travels. That's going to have to be me, Tony Metro. I'm going to be the 10th guy out there for the Mets, all right? I'm going to slap up a couple Royal fans. No, I'm just kidding. I don't do that with away fans or any fans. Let's see. Lane Kerner, I'm glad you asked. What's the news on Brooks Raley? Brooks Raley threw another scoreless appearance for the Mets tonight. Syracuse Mets, that is, in AAA. 1 1/3 scoreless innings tonight for Brooks Raley. I think he has thrown something like 8 scoreless innings now, over 6 appearances so far. Let's see what it is. The numbers here, according to Mike Mayer, another scoreless rehab outing for Brooks Raley. Stranded 2 runners tonight. In his total rehab assignment so far, 8 innings pitched, 6 hits, no runs allowed, just 1 walk, and 12 strikeouts. It looks like Brooks Raley of old is on his way back. He threw 18 pitches tonight, 13 of them were strikes, and like I mentioned, strands 2 inherited runners. What a boon it would be for the Mets to be able to solve their left-handed pitching issues out of the bullpen since we lost A.J. Minter with Brooks Raley, who I figured was going to be out of baseball. Like, after he had to get Tommy John in 2023, I totally forgot about this dude. I figured there's no way he's going to make a comeback attempt. The Mets signed him basically out of nowhere, and he has looked great so far in this rehab assignment. Like I just said, 8 innings pitched, hasn't allowed a run, just 1 walk compared to 12 strikeouts. So really good news on the Brooks Raley front. Really good news on the entire injury front for the Mets right now. We saw the return of Jesse Winker to the lineup today. We are getting Kodai Senga back Friday, and we are getting Sean Manaea back on Sunday. So things are starting to trend in the right direction as far as the health for the New York Mets. So really happy about all of that. Let's see. Luis Ayala, what's up, man? I don't like that move of Mendoza in the 6th inning. You didn't like which move from Mendy in the 6th inning? I'm trying to remember right now. Was it pinch hitting Mark Vientos for Winker? Because they brought in a lefty. They intentionally walked Pete Alonso, and then they put Vientos to the plate instead of Winker. Winker's first game back at the bigs. He's obviously never been great against lefties. I like them giving Vientos the shot there, if I'm being honest. Give him a little bit of confidence that you haven't fully just sat him on the pine, because he has been pinch hit for many times over the last 2 weeks, and including again in tonight's game in the late innings. But I don't want to completely destroy Mark Vientos' confidence, so I actually like the call from Mendoza to pinch hit Vientos for Jesse Winker in that spot in the 6th inning. But unfortunately, it has just been like a broken record with Mark Vientos, man. 6'3" is going to be his new nickname, because he just grounds out to the shortstop seemingly every at-bat. I mean, he just can't make solid contact. He even had a good eye and started out with a 2-0 count in that at-bat. Some patience that I really haven't seen from Vientos much lately, and he still can't take advantage of, I think, what was a 2-1 pitch. Pretty center cut, and he just chops it in the ground. So you can hate the decision in hindsight. Obviously, you do when he doesn't produce, but I don't want to completely ruin the kid's confidence. So unfortunately, just doesn't get the job done again. Ray, Tony, you're too cool for Nebraska, bro. Dude, Nebraska, I'll tell you what, man. I had never been to this state before I took the job here, and I was like, yo, I ain't moving to Nebraska. No way. And then I visited, and I was like, okay, Lincoln, Nebraska. I mean, it's the capital. You got the Huskers here. That is what I was doing for a job, covering them for ABC as the sports anchor. But honestly, Nebraska is not as bad as you would think it is. And don't get me wrong, I don't want to live here the rest of my life, but not a bad place. But I mean, I am kind of cool for this. No, I'm just kidding. There's some good people here. Food is not very good. You would think Nebraska, Omaha meats, right? Omaha steaks. No, the food here is awful. Awful food here. Lane says, do you call up Nate Dome? So that's a good question. Let's take a look at Nate Dome's stats. I think he is actually only in Double-A, so I'm not sure he's actually a candidate. He is actually only in High-A, so I'm mistaken. He began the year in the extended A-ball league this season and then moved up to Brooklyn. So far this year, 3.25 ERA with Brooklyn, over 8 starts. So happy to see him doing some stuff, but he's clearly still pretty far away. He was a 3rd-round pick out of Mississippi State, so college arm, but only 22 years old. Guys at that age, even coming out of college, it's reserved for only the most special arms, the Paul Skeens and whatnot. So I don't think we're going to see Nate Dome at any point in this season, but the Mets are starting to develop some really solid starting pitching prospects, and that is usually what other teams are seeking at the trade deadline. I think the Mets are going to end up having to part with at least one of them if they want to complete all of the different things they're hoping to do at this deadline, or at least all the things I think they need to do, which I'll run it down again real quick, is at least one solid reliever. I think that it should be two, but the Mets are probably banking on Brooks Raley when he returns from his rehab assignment to be one of those guys. So let's talk about maybe Felix Bautista, who we just saw pitch for the Orioles tonight. He's been their closer this year, steadily, very quietly, one of the better relievers in baseball since 2022. Then you have the guys with the Rockies, Seth Halverson and Jake Bird. Those are two right-handed options in the bullpen as well. The few others, I won't go into details, but other positions, I think the Mets definitely need to get a center fielder at this point. I just said it the other day in my stream. You almost have to accept that you're just not going to get offensive production from one position. And catcher has not been doing it, but there's no upgrade at catcher. But you can't continue to live with what you have gotten at the plate from Tyrone Taylor. So I truly believe the Mets need to get a legitimate center fielder, whether it is Cedric Mullins, who again we saw with the Orioles tonight, or if it is Jarren Duran, who has been bantied about. I don't know if Boston's actually interested in trading him or not at this point. He's going to cost a lot with 2 or 3 more years of control still with his team. Then you have Byron Buxton. Is he going to be on the move? He's got a no trade clause. Supposedly loves Minnesota. I highly doubt that he actually will take a trade anywhere. So the Mets definitely have some work cut out for them. But luckily, it sounds like they've got a lot in the pipeline as far as starting pitching in their farm system. So good signs all around. Let's see. Ray says, can't wait to see Raley back. It's been eons. I mean, man, what a pickup he was in 23 before getting injured. We made that nice trade for him with Tampa Bay. He looked really solid in that first half, and then ends up having to get the Tommy John surgery. You know, I would not have believed that he'd really be making a comeback. And then for him to basically be out there as a free agent and the Mets to just be like, okay, yeah, come back. We'll help you rehab. And then, you know, come do a minor league assignment with us. Let's see what happens. Really, really great to see. And obviously the numbers speak for themselves. 8 scoreless innings out of Raley. And I do believe that in David Stearns' mind, he is banking on him being one of those 2 acquisitions to improve the relief corps for this team. But still, I think they need to get another legitimate high leverage guy. And I've wanted it to be Chapman. Fortunately, if they're counting on Raley to be the lefty, they're going to have to go after a righty. That eliminates Chapman. That's why I just listed the other guys. Halverson from Colorado, Jake Bird from the Colorado Rockies as well, or maybe a guy like Felix Bautista, who we just saw with the Orioles this evening. Caden Ahaz, what's up, man? Hi, I'm such a big fan. Happy about Lindor. Hell yeah, man. Big swing from Lindor. Got things going for them there after Nimmo with the leadoff base hit, 2-run shot to cut this to a 2-run game. You know, at that point, I'm just annoyed because we saw the debut of another David Stearns magical pick in Carrillo, who gives up a home run to make it 6-2. And I'm thinking, man, if you just could have kept it at 5-2 and now Lindor's homer makes it 5-4, I'd feel so much better about this game. And literally 2 batters later, Pete Alonso going the other way to right center field with a 2-run pop of his own to tie this ball game up. Man, what a freaking win for the Metsies tonight. I love it. Let's see, Lane, what is the news on Drew Smith? I hope none, because I don't ever want to see Drew Smith pitching for the Mets again, man. I never liked Drew Smith, dude. That dude is cheeks. I don't want to see him. I hope nothing but the best for him as far as his rehab and recovery. And you know what? I'll even say his career, because if he could stick on with the team that doesn't affect my Mets, fine. But I don't want to see Drew Smith in a Mets uniform again. But just for S's and gigs, let's take a look and see if there is anything on Drew Smith. I really highly doubt it. I mean, he needed to get Tommy John, I think, around this time last year. He's obviously at least another 5 months out from pitching, maybe a little less, 4 months out, something like that. So I don't think we're going to see Drew Smith again. I think they tendered him a contract this year, but I don't believe we will be seeing him in a Mets uniform this year or ever again. And I'm sorry, but personally, I'm okay with that. I'm just saying. But best wishes, speedy recovery or whatever. Let's see. Caden says, what do you watch the Mets on? MLB TV. Yeah, MLB TV. And it's actually funny because even though I'm here in Nebraska, Kansas City Royal games are blacked out on MLB TV, which is kind of strange because it's a 3-hour ride to Kansas City, but they black out the games. So fortunately, I am going to the first 2 games of the Mets and Royals on this upcoming Friday and Saturday. So I will be there in person and won't have to try to find some LimeWire type of link to watch the Mets this upcoming weekend against the Royals. But yeah, I use MLB TV, Caden. Ray, hope to see the good Peterson this week, for not the guy who gives up a 4-spot ASAP. Yeah, well, I think we need to talk a little bit about Clay Holmes, who has kind of turned into that guy lately. So the big issue for Holmes, his last couple of starts were the walks. He doesn't walk anybody in this game, but what kills him and gets the wheels in motion for that 6th inning is a hit batsman, as he hits Gunnar Henderson with the 0-2 pitch on the foot. And then from there, 4 straight hits, including the go-ahead double, another 2-run single, and before you know it, it's 5-2. And it seems like those things have been unraveling on Clay Holmes lately. And it tells me more and more with his pitch limit, this inning limit, that whether they actually are ever going to admit that he is on or not, he is, because they need to try to preserve him as long as they can. But to me, it sounds more like the Mets are going to, at some point, have to transition Clay Holmes to the bullpen. And you can only do that if you are aggressive at the deadline in acquiring a starting pitcher for this rotation. So maybe that is the direction the Mets end up going, where they do get aggressive and go for Mitch Keller, who is potentially the best starting pitcher available at this year's deadline. They lock him in for not only this year, but the next couple of seasons. And then they put Clay Holmes in the back of that bullpen. And all of a sudden, the bullpen's looking a lot better when you add Brooks Raley and you add Clay Holmes to it as well. So maybe that is the way that the Mets decide to navigate things. It'd be very interesting to see how it plays. I don't hate that idea. And like I've said before, when it comes to a playoff series, you're usually only throwing your 3 best starting pitchers anyway. Because of all of the rest days, the travel days in between games, you usually are only going to go with your top 3 starters regardless. So maybe transitioning Holmes to the bullpen, and then you get Brooks Raley back, and then hopefully an addition at the deadline as well. Quickly, this bullpen could get a lot deeper, maybe 5 or 6 deep, if you can still rely on Huascar Brazoban and Reed Garrett, who haven't been perfect lately, but have been much better than they looked for those last couple of weeks that we had seen from them. Let's see. Ray says center field, third base 2. It's a platoon spot. We need a legit third baseman. I wish Bregman was available. Okay, so I'm glad you bring that up, Ray, because I had said center field earlier in the stream, but for the last month and a half, I've been screaming third base. I've been saying Eugenio Suarez. I've thrown Ryan McMahon's name out. All these different options to fix third base. At this point, I think the best thing the Mets could do is get a legitimate center fielder, and here's why. I'm on record. I don't like Brett Beatty. I've never been a believer in Brett Beatty. He is wildly inconsistent. He has had every opportunity over the past 3 years to seize the starting third base job and hasn't been able to do it. But Beatty has quietly been the second best defensive third baseman in all of baseball. He is worth 4 outs above average at third base this year. That is second in the league. And he's been hitting much better lately. I don't think he's ever going to be a 280, 300 hitter like we thought he was going to be with 20 or 25 bombs. But he has been contributing enough at the plate when you consider the great defense he's supplying as well. You've got Ronnie Mauricio, who has been really solid defensively over there. Obviously, there's going to be a learning curve and some growing pains, as we saw on display tonight, despite his game-tying solo homer. But I think that is the best they can do at third base, and they should focus on getting a star center fielder like Duran. Mullins is a step down, in my opinion. I think Buxton is probably on par with Duran, but probably less likely to be available in a trade. So that's how I feel about it. And then you just accept catcher is what it is. You hope Alvarez comes up, that he figured something out at AAA. Otherwise, you got tremendous defense from him, hopefully, and of course, definitely from Luis Torrens behind the plate. But I hear you. if there's a big third baseman out there and the right trade is available, I am all for it. But the way I've seen things transpire over the last 2 to 3 weeks, I think the Mets' best bet to improve this lineup is in center field. Caden says, yeah, I'm in North Carolina. The Orioles are blocked for me on MLB TV. That is so weird, man. MLB TV, yeah, let's grow the game. Let's grow the game, says Major League Baseball. But let's also make it impossible to watch. Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, we want more fans. But also, if you live 1,000 miles away from this team, you can't watch them, even though you pay for it. Like, what are they doing with the blackouts? It's so stupid. They are just archaic. Ray says, Tony, Holmes regressed back to his Yankee bullpen trash ways. Yeah. He was always a victim of ground balls there because the Yankees play such shoddy defense. But yeah, I mean, look, he was really solid the first 4 innings in this game. First 5 innings, he entered that 6th inning with 71 pitches and looked pretty good. No walks. And like I said, the 1 run he gave up in the 3rd inning, it was a very questionable borderline ball 4 that could have been strike 3 to Cedric Mullins, and then it was a 2-out chopper up the middle to score him. So honestly, Holmes looked really good for the first 5 innings of this game, but then he had that blow-up inning in the 6th, and that is something we have seen not only from Holmes, but from virtually anybody in this pitching staff, starters or relievers. So I hear you, and again, I do believe the Mets' plan is to eventually transition Holmes to the bullpen. He has given us more than half a season as a starter. This has got to be his 17th start of the season. I think they start to dial it back even more. And the eventual plan is he is essentially one of their acquisitions to improve this bullpen heading into the late stages of the season and into October should they make it there. But Rod says, so happy about that rally in the 8th. Pretty mad about the 9th and not being able to score runs through time, though. Trying to play small ball, if we don't solve that problem, it will kill us. So we didn't really talk about the 9th inning, but the Mets end up getting a walk from Brett Baty after Ronnie Mauricio's, I don't know what he was doing, brain dead at bat. He starts out 3-0 with Felix Bautista, the Orioles closer, on the mound, and then tries basically convincing the home plate umpire that the 3-0 pitch wasn't right down the plate, which it was. He runs out of the box, he comes back, and then before you know it, the umpire is calling a strike violation on him, makes it 3-2, and then he swings at a ball at his eyes. Okay, Ronnie, thank you. You did great today defensively at third base. You had a home run. That's enough from you today. Then you have Brett Baty draw a 4-pitch walk. Tyrone Taylor pinch runs, steals second. You got Nimmo up. You got Lindor up. I was saying how important it'd be for the Mets to win this game in 9 and not go to extras, being the first day of a 6-game road trip, being that they might have a bullpen day on Thursday, being that you have Senga and Manaea returning, and the bullpen will continue to get taxed over these final 6 games. But luckily the Mets able to pull it out without too many dramatics in the 10th inning, thanks in large part to Huascar Brosbaum. But can't really get on Nimmo or Lindor for striking out there in the 9th inning. Felix Bautista, a trade candidate that I'd love to see the Mets pursue, is pretty nasty. He struck them both out on splitters, but would have been nice to see the big boys come through there once again, but they clearly did their job in the 8th inning. And then obviously in the 10th, you get the go-ahead and eventual game-winning base hit from Juan Soto. So a very nice day from the Big Four, as Keith Hernandez called them multiple times tonight. Let's see. Lane says, do you call up Matt Allen? No, I don't think Matt Allen's going to get the call this year. Let me actually look at his stats. And again, sorry, I can't share my screen today, guys. Just having technical difficulties. But Matt Allen, if you guys remember, drafted in 2019, 2020, I think it was, by Brody Van Wagenen. The Mets paid over slot for him in that year's draft. He was coming in as one of the most highly regarded high school arms. And unfortunately, it has been nothing but injuries for him and surgeries, and he has not pitched in professional baseball for almost 4 years, and finally is back on a mound. He has been pitching with Brooklyn this year, over 11 games, including 9 starts, has a 3.50 ERA. He's only pitched 20 innings this year, and even though the numbers look okay as far as earned run average, the whip is up at 1.55. I don't see him touching the big leagues this year. I think it will be a long time before we do ever see him in the big leagues, if ever, which is sad to say, man, to see his career just totally devastated by injuries. But they are clearly not rushing this guy. I mean, he has only made, like I said, 9 starts this year, 11 overall. Yes, that's correct. And 11 overall appearances, so 2 relief spots as well, and only tossed 20 innings. So look, if they think there is anything left in Matt Allen, they are not going to rush him up to come to the big league roster, at least not yet. But happy to see that he's at least pitching again, right? Hopefully that he can have a great story and turn into a really solid starting pitcher for this team one day. Let's see. Ray says, Stearns hugs the prospects so hard those young bloods can't breathe. Well, it's like a mother's hug, right? Just, oh, Mom, let me go. My friends are over there. Yeah, I don't know. We're going to see. Keep in mind, none of these prospects are David Stearns' prospects, right? The only guys are the ones that he drafted last year. So Carson Bengi and guys like that. Other than that, all these people, all these kids are guys that David Stearns acquired, inherited when he became the president of baseball operations last year. A lot of these picks are from Brody Van Wagenen. A lot of these picks are from Zach Porter. A lot of these picks are Zach Scott, from Jared Porter, and from Billy Epler. Think about that. The Mets have had 4 different general managers since 2020, and that is what David Stearns is inheriting right now. So he's got a very big task of sorting through all of that slop, trying to figure out this guy picked that guy and that guy picked this guy and he picked this one, and try to make sense of it all and try to understand, what did they see in him? You know, what did they believe in this guy, and do we believe in this guy given the philosophy that I want to institute for this organization moving forward? So it's a big, big task for David Stearns. There's no one that I would trust more than him to figure out that entire situation, but it does tell me there could be some massive trades at this year's trade deadline by David Stearns. I think he has now had a full year to watch these guys evaluate their progress, and I think now he probably has a very good sense of who he likes, who he sees as a long-term fit for this organization, and who he believes is expendable in trades to improve the big league roster. So I would not be surprised, despite what a lot of people say, Jose Lopez Moya, probably the most famous, calling him Stingy Stearns, as you guys have probably seen in the chats here very often. I would not be surprised if Stingy Stearns is very active at this year's trade deadline. Let's see. Ray says typo prospects. I see what you mean. Caden, what are your thoughts on Ronnie? I like Ronnie. I just said the other day, I really, really do. I think we've seen a much improved swing selection from him. Still swinging at balls in the dirt, still swinging at balls at his eyes, but obviously when he is connecting, he's hitting the crap out of the ball. Line drives, doubles, homers. He's never had a good walk rate or an impressive plate discipline, but I do like what I've seen out of Ronnie, and I do believe he could still turn into that star player that we were hoping he would be. It's not a guarantee by any means, but he's clearly looking a lot better than Mark Vientos has been, and for that reason alone, I am keeping Ronnie Mauricio on this roster, because lately, for the most part, he has been helping this team win. There's going to be growing pains, and we will just see. But hopefully the good outweighs the bad. That's just how it goes with all young players for the most part, with the exception of your superstars, your Juan Sotos, your Luis Angel Acuna. Can you imagine if Luis Angel Acuna was a superstar with Ronald Acuna? But let's see, Lane, did the Mets ever wear the blue uniforms? Yeah, I don't know, man. They have grown on me, those blue pullovers. I did not love them when they first released them. I also didn't like the road grays for this year. I personally am a little more fond of the classic road grays that we've had for basically the entire existence of this franchise. I think, how could you beat that? Look at that, baby. It's just the most beautiful jersey in baseball. Mwah. I love the blue piping, and I was a little disappointed they got rid of that. Wasn't crazy about the orange and blue collar and on the sleeves, but honestly, these 2 jerseys have grown on me, and I would like to see them wear them a little more often, but you don't mess with perfection. And in my opinion, the Mets home and road jerseys, the one I just showed you, and obviously the home blue, home white pinstripes are the best, some of the best in baseball. They're just clean, classic, never really been changed over the years. So yeah, I'd like to see the blue a little bit more, but these the regulars are classics and they look great. Lane says, do you call up Jonah Tong? No. I would look. I'd love to call up Jonah Tong. I would love to bring up one of the Mets' most high-rising starting pitching prospects, but dude is 22 years old. He is in Double-A, and yeah, he's dominating. A 1.83 ERA, over 78 and 2/3 innings this year. He has struck out 125 batters in 78 innings. This kid is a freak. And that's fitting because he has that big over-the-head wind-up delivery like Tim Lincecum, also nicknamed the Freak. So, yeah, this guy is a absolute demon. But, again, 22 years old. He was drafted in the 7th round of the 2022 draft, but he's a high school arm. So, he's going to take, I think, a little bit more time in the minors to develop. And we saw what David Stearns did with Brandon Sproat last year, aggressive in promoting him to AAA, even though he kind of knew he would struggle, but wanted to see how he would adapt and make adjustments. I think they're going to do the same thing with Jonah Tong. And a lot of people are going to say, you're treating him with kid gloves, give him a shot. It can't be worse than what we have in the bullpen games that we just saw like on Sunday. But I think the Mets really do believe Jonah Tong is going to be one of the next up-and-coming starters for this organization, and I don't think they're going to do anything to mess with him. I think it's virtually impossible that they give him a shot on a big league mound this year. That's just how I kind of see it. But Rod says, sorry, I meant the 10th inning because I feel like it should have scored at least 2 more runs, and we got that important run. We need to add security. Yeah, 100%, and that's what we're all saying about that 10th inning, Rod. The Mets had the bases loaded. That comes after they pinch hit Vientos for Travis Jankowski. Jankowski bunts them over. 2nd and 3rd, they intentionally walk. I guess it would have been, who would have been after? I guess it would have been Jeff McNeil that they intentionally walked to load the bases. I agree with you. Yeah, frustrating they couldn't get more there, but it's Luis Torrens, Torrens has just been in the gutter pretty much since Alvarez went down. And honestly, even before that, very nearly had a double down the right field line, just goes foul by 5 feet. And then he takes a really, really good 3-2 pitch from the Orioles reliever Cano that was just absolutely dotted on the outside corner. It is what it is. You know what I mean? But yes, the Mets need to be getting runs in those types of situations more often than not. I will tell you this, the Mets got away with 1 in extra innings tonight. As happy as I am about the comeback, they got away with 1 tonight because it is not often that you can score just 1 run in the ghost runner extra inning era of baseball as the road team and still win the ball game. But Brazaban was up to the task, man. Big cojones from Brazaban, goes 1, 2, 3. Not a winning formula to only get 1 though with the bases loaded. I hear you, Rod. He says, oh my God, let me catch my breath. I'm getting caught in mouth over here. Rod says, I've had a change of heart towards Mauricio and Vientos, but they really need to get their heads out of their asses or we will be calling for their heads. Also, Beatty needs to get traded. No exceptions. I mean, look, they're showcasing Brett Beatty right now. They're showcasing all of these guys. Mauricio as well. Unfortunately, Mark Vientos has 0 trade value. I mean, I wouldn't say 0 given what he did last year, but this is what the Mets are trying to do. Get all of them as much playing time as possible, keeping all of them fresh and letting other teams get a look at them and see, hey, this is the one I want. That's the one I want, or however other teams view each of those baby Mets. I don't know who's going to be the one to go, honestly, at this point, but it seems like Brett Beatty has probably been the best third baseman that we've had this year, which is shocking to say. But I don't know if they're going to trade him unless it's part of a deal that brings back Jarren Duran, something like that. And that's without even looking at Boston's roster. And I don't know if Roman Anthony's a third. My point is, if it comes back where it's like, all right, we're giving them that guy, it's Brett Beatty, it's a potential future third baseman for them, and we're getting back an immediate impact bat right now, and we're also going to send some prospects over the other way. okay, but I think that's the kind of trade it would have to be to send Brett Beatty away right now, where it's an immediate upgrade for a big league bat right now. Otherwise, Beatty has clearly been the Mets' best third baseman in 2025, so I don't see how you can trade him away unless you are getting an improvement at another position in the process. Lane says, do you send Ronnie? Do you send him down to AAA? Is that what you mean? If that is what you mean, then no. I mean, I love what I've been seeing from Ronnie. Obviously, still's got a lot to improve on. Lots of learning, growing pains still yet to come, but I have been really pleased with what we have seen from Ronnie. It has been a slow climb. Obviously, those first 3 weeks, we were screaming, this kid's not ready, put him back in Syracuse, but it looks like he's starting to come around a little bit, but then obviously it's a play-by-play kind of situation with Ronnie. It's an at-bat by at-bat type of ascent for Ronnie Mauricio. It's peaks and valleys. He will have that home run, then he will strike out on 3 pitches. Then he will make a tremendous 6-6-3 double play to end the 8th inning, and then he will have that at bat that he had to lead off the 9th inning, and that is just what you're going to get with young players. But overall, I am really, really happy with some of the marginal improvements that we have seen from Ronnie Mauricio lately. Caden says, what do you think of Soto and being player of the month and popping off? I love it, man. Juan Soto, this is the Juan Soto we paid for. This is the Juan Soto we expected and that we hope that we're going to get for the next several years. Pumped about it, man. I mean, just torched it in June. OPS above 1,200, 11 home runs, 20-something RBIs, 20-something walks. Honestly, like I said, biggest snub of the All-Star game, if you ask me. He's one of like only 8 players in MLB history to have 20 home runs, 10-plus stolen bases, 15-plus doubles, and 20-plus or 70-plus walks to not make an All-Star game. The only player in MLB history, there have been 7 in the history of baseball prior to Juan Soto to have 20-plus homers, 10-plus stolen bases, 15-plus doubles, and 70-plus walks and not make the All-Star team. Juan Soto is the only one. Wild. But yeah, big All-Star snub, but super pumped about what we've been seeing, and hopefully it just gives him some added motivation to go on an even bigger tear in the second half. Rod says, hot take, I did not like the design of the old away uniform. I feel like the new uniforms are better. Just my opinion. I know it's controversial. You're damn right it is. You bite your tongue. This is the best uniform in all of sports, if you ask me, man. Are you kidding me? How could you like the new ones better than this one, man? Come on, look at this. This is actually one I got from Citi Field that they did a like spin the wheel contest. You could have won like a little like autographed piece of paper or like, you know, some stupid little collectible or a game issued jersey. I happened to got lucky, spun it, got it on the game issued jersey. So this is former Mets first base coach and former MLB player Tom Goodwin's game issued jersey, which conveniently is number 22. So maybe I should just put some duct tape over this and I have a brand new Juan Soto jersey. But man, I can't believe you. How could you say that, Rod? I like the new road grays. They're cool. They've grown on me, but not like the classic grays that we have seen pretty much ever since the Mets inception in 1962. But no wrong answers. The Mets, for the most part, always have great jerseys outside the Mercury Mets jerseys. And I will say, I don't really love the Mets' current iteration of their black jerseys. Without the white piping in the lettering, it just falls flat. Not a big fan at all. So that's how I feel about him. Lane says, do you send down Mark Vientos? You can't, unfortunately. Mark Vientos does not have options, meaning he would have to pass through waivers. And newsflash, he will not. Because as down as we are on Mark Vientos, he just had a 27 home run season, a postseason where he hit 4-5 clutch home runs in 3 different series. So I am hoping and just begging that the Mark Vientos from last year comes back. But the longer it goes, the more unrealistic that seems. But that being said, I'm not DFAing him. I am not putting him through waivers. If he comes up in trade talks and it makes the Mets a better team, I'll have to see what that trade is, and then I can give you an answer. But overall, I'm not ready to give up on Mark Vientos unless it is a sure thing that's going to improve this big league roster right away. And you said then to call up Carson Bangy, which would be sick. I don't think Carson Bangy is really ready either. I believe he's still only in AA Binghamton as well. So I know he had 3 doubles today, which is great to see, but he is actually with, Binghamton. He has played just 11 games with them, so he was recently promoted to the Eastern League. But so far in 11 games, 11 hits for Carson. He's got a 297 average, 405 on base, 435 on base percentage, and an 867 OPS. So one of the Mets' former top picks. It was their first rounder from last year. So the very first pick David Stearns made as president of baseball operations for the Mets has really impressed so far. And he's 22 years old, but coming out of Oklahoma State, I mean, unknown commodity in college baseball. So he is legit in my opinion. I'm really excited about him. He's a lefty. So I'm really pumped about Bangy, but I don't think he is ready to make the jump to the big leagues yet. Let's see. I'm going to do a few more here. Rod says, I feel like trading for Duran will be a blockbuster trade, but it's Boston, so they'll probably accept the trade for Beatty and 3 people from AA because it's Boston. Boston has really had a fall from grace, pretty much, it seems, ever since Theo Epstein left. I know they won the World Series in 2018. Can't remember who was their general manager that season, but, I mean, they trade Mookie Betts the following year, 2 years later to Dodgers. The main centerpiece of that trade for them was Alex Verdugo. What a bust that was. He just got DFA'd by the Braves the other day, his third team in like 2 years. Then they had Jeter Downs, who's basically been a failed shortstop prospect at this point, and catcher Connor Wong, I think his name was. So that trade blew up in their face. And then they do the Rafi Devers trade, which looks like absolute crap right now. I mean, that could change, but I don't see it changing. I mean, they offloaded that contract, probably didn't get much back. But if that's what Boston wants for Jarren Duran, sign me up, Rod. That sounds like a home run to me. Caden says, I'm getting tired, but I'll be back tomorrow. Thank you, Caden. Thank you. I appreciate it. And yes, do come back tomorrow because we will be doing another post-game recap after Mets and Orioles game 2, which we're going to preview here in just a moment before we wrap things up. But one more from the chat. Ray, I'm with Tony on the jersey. The classic gray are fire by default, 100%. And you know what? I should have had this on the whole time we were streaming. But man, I just love the Mets jerseys. I've always said they're classic. They're clean. We've never changed this beautiful logo since 1962. I mean, you just can't beat it. It's the best logo in sports. I mean, if you know the history of this logo, which I know you all do as big Mets fans, like, you can't beat it. The classic New York font here. I think these are classics. Just awesome unis, but don't hate the new road grays. I just don't think they're better than these bad boys right here. But Lane, do you call up Alvarez? I've said it. I want to keep Alvarez down in AAA until after the All-Star break. I mean, at this point, just let him ride it out here. There's only a few days left before they go to the break. I think minor league baseball wraps up a couple of days before Major League Baseball's first half wraps up. They may not even, they are playing right now. I know that Brooks Raley had a relief appearance today, and Sean Manaea also pitched a rehab start today where he gave up 3 runs and I think 4 innings. So no, I'm keeping Francisco Alvarez in the minors until after the All-Star break, and then I'm probably planning on starting the second half with Alvarez back as on the big league roster, but not back in the majority starting catcher role. My plan is, when Francisco Alvarez returns, is to do a 50-50 split between Alvy and between Luis Torrens. Let's see if you got anything out of Alvarez going to AAA. Let's see if you can keep giving Torrens some more playing time and see if his bat will finally come around. It's been bad for at least a month and a half, almost 2 now for Luis Torrens since his hot start to the season, and then figure it out from there. Like I said, you got to address center field or third base. I think they're going to do it with center field unless they're shipping off Brett Beatty in a trade that improves center. Otherwise, you're going to have to just deal with not getting offensive production from one of those 3 positions. And if it has to be any of them, let it be catcher, but make sure you are getting elite defense behind the plate. And that is what Luis Torrens does. And it's what Francisco Alvarez has shown us in the past that he is capable of. But Let's see what he did down in AAA. Let's not put too much on his plate when he returns to the big leagues. Let's do a 50-50 split between him and Luis Torrens when he does eventually get back. A couple more here. Rod, if Alvarez doesn't go and pop off in AAA, then we may have to use the B word and ship him. Yeah, I mean, the B word, I've used it once or twice this year with Alvarez, but we'll see. I don't know, man. It's a little concerning. And then Lane says, what is the news on Tylor as far as Tylor Megill? Tylor Megill was just put on the 60-day injured list today. So best case scenario, the Mets will not see him until late August. So I don't know, maybe he's got a really good stretch in the second half like he did last year. He had a really solid September. It kind of began on August 31st. So maybe he'll be able to replicate that here in 2025. The hope is you don't need Tylor Megill, right? The hope is that you get Sean Manaea and Kodai Senga back this weekend. They stay healthy. David Peterson continues to pitch relatively well. You hope Clay Holmes can do what he's been doing, giving you about 5 innings every time out. We'll see what they end up doing with that. And then they'll probably have to figure out another starting pitcher for this rotation. But you hope you don't need Tylor. Oh, obviously you have Frankie Montas. Duh. Well, the hope is you don't need Tylor Megill, but you probably will. And it doesn't sound like we'll get him back until late August. But guys, I'm going to wrap it up. Let's do a quick preview of tomorrow's game. The Mets taking on the Orioles for the second game in a row. They could very well be in a tie for first place by this time. Let's see. It will be David Peterson taking on Tomoyaki Sugano. So Peterson with a nice bounce back start his last time out after a couple of rough ones in a row in the state of Pennsylvania. The first against the Phillies, then roughed up in that series opener versus Pittsburgh. Then he was able to have a nice start against the Brewers where he went 6 2/3 and allowed just 1 earned run. So hopefully Peterson has gotten that out of his system after his previous start against the Brewers. And the Mets will be taking on Tomoyuki Sugano, a right-hander for Baltimore, 35 years old, ageless wonder so far this year, has a 4.44 ERA over 17 starts in 93 innings. Let's see what he's done his last couple times out. He pitched against Texas last time, lasted just 4 2/3 innings, gave up 6 earned runs. His previous start before that against Tampa Bay, we all know too well about how Tampa Bay can torture a pitching staff. Just 5 innings, gave up 7 earned runs. In fact, he hasn't given up anything less than 3 earned runs since June 3rd. That was 5 starts ago for Tomoyuki Sugano. So another pitcher, like we thought in Young tonight, that would be ripe for the picking. That didn't exactly go to plan for the Mets lineup, but hopefully tomorrow they get to Sugano early the way they couldn't to Young tonight, and it won't be as much of a high blood pressure, high anxiety, late extra inning game like it was here on Tuesday evening. But either way, the Mets get the W. They get their 5th win in their past 8 games. And it looks like things are back on track. You guys, they start this road trip off on the right foot. They start this final 6-game stretch of the first half on the right foot as well. And like I said, 2 out of 3 from Baltimore, 2 out of 3 from Kansas City. Regardless, win 4 of these final 6. If it means a sweep by one of these teams, great. And then you end up losing the next series, I'm fine with it. Get me 4 out of 6 to ride into the first half on a really good note. But guys, be sure to leave this video a like if you have not already. I appreciate it. It goes a long way toward helping me out and the channel. And be sure to tune in tomorrow after Mets and Orioles game 2. We will have another post-game recap. Let me say some quick thank yous. Thank you to, I know I could do this right here. How do we do this? There's an easy way to do it. Oh, there we go. Thank you to James Lee. Thank you to Kate, and thank you to Lane. Thank you to D-Rose. Thank you to Luis Ayala. Thank you to AMBRY3J. Wow, that is a mouthful. Thank you to Ray. Thank you to Rod. Thank you to, let's see, who else? D-Rails, I already said. Thank you to James Lee. I already got you. Luis Ayala, I got you. Thank you to, who else am I missing here? Red Bear Fox, my man, Pots and Pans. Thank you to Fingering Diaz. Thank you to anyone else that has tuned in and has been watching. Guys, again, a nice 7-6 extra inning win for the Mets here tonight. Tune in tomorrow for another post-game recap. But until then, I am Tony Metro. Stay true to the orange and blue.